What is the magic strategy in crushing every job interview you come across? Wow. Today we're going to talk about job strategy. More specifically, we want to talk about interviewing. What can you do in order to ensure that before you leave every interview, you are sure they are going to call you for the next round? Right. So you want to stay up to the end of this video. I'm going to address 6 major issues. The first one, which I'm going to talk about, I'm going to teach you how you can find common words that can throw the interviewer, like I said, wow, you want to make them go wow. I'm going to teach you how to do that. The second thing I'll be talking about on how you can use, I'm looking for a good word for that. I will not really say how you can use some really tricks, some tricks and tips that can help you kind of bypass some of those technical work. Now, the third thing I want to talk about on how you can map your stories. What are the technique of mapping your stories? Remember, every interview or your ability to get someone like you, it's about how you tell your story, right? We're going to talk about that, how you can leverage that in your next interview. Also talk about highlight on achievement. How can you integrate your achievement in your conversation in a way that you stand out? And I will talk about understanding Scrum as business, not as facilitation and removing impediment. And the last thing, I'm going to focus on understanding that people hire people and company do not hire people. That's one thing a lot of you are missing in the game that is keeping you on one spot. Now, let's get into the business of the day. Right, so I know it's been a while. I actually put on a video because we're having an awesome training this week for those who wanted to become certified Scrum Master. I just rounded up the training, so that's why I have some time to kind of shoot another video. Next week, we're going to have 3 videos up, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I expect 3 videos next week. And one of the videos, I'm going to dedicate it to talk about a working agreement as a magical solution for you to help your team go to the next level. How to actually make that work for you. All right. So another stuff which I'm also going to do for next week is that I'm going to set up a live session where we can have a conversation for next week. All right, for those who are interested for the next Safe Scrum Master training, we are having that first week of October. That's going to run from the 3rd of October through the 6th. 4 days, 4 hours, amazing, awesome, practices, Jira, and just having fun. If you want to be part of that, welcome on board. We always have limited seats available, so you want to grab the first one. For those who want to leverage and close the number of time that you're interviewing, we have an awesome program that helps you walk you from Jira to how you facilitate events, to how you take interviews. Definitely, you cannot beat that. Okay, without taking much of your time, I'm going to dive straight into the conversation for today. I did promise that I'm going to go through 6 different things you can do to make sure that if you're capable of doing this, then you're going to guarantee yourself that by the time you're leaving every interview, you're sure that they're going to invite you for the next one. Now, the first technique I want you to leverage, or the first hack which I want you to leverage, is to find a common word for every technical word. Now, what throws a lot of people is because they only know technical word and they don't know how they can put those technical words into their own word. I'm going to give you an example. Now, let's talk about the most common one that a lot of people kind of really mix about it. Velocity and capacity, right? So you want to ask yourself, what is another alternative word I can call velocity? If I don't call it velocity, what will I call it? If I don't call it capacity, what will I call it? If I don't call it product backlog item, what will I call it in my own word? So trying as much as possible to understand those keywords in your word make you to go find out a bit more deeper why they're even using it in the first place. So for me, I always like to take the non-technical approach, right? A lot of you feel like, oh, if I know all the Scrum terms and know how to use them, and then the interviewer is going to be pleased with me. Now, one thing you want to focus on is the fact that they know and you're not teaching them. Right. So what you want to do is to kind of illustrate that you understand the use of those technical terms and you understand how we do that together. Now, I'm going to kind of play a role on velocity and capacity. Instead of you saying that I'll help my team establish their velocity and their capacity, and which is part of the backlog grooming, right? You can say that I help my team figure out what time they have available and what amount of work they can do for that sprint. Now, as I said the same thing, but I did not use velocity and capacity, right? So let's examine these two sentences together. For every sprint planning, I help my team to establish their velocity and their capacity so that we can know exactly what they do, right? Okay, versus for every sprint planning, I make sure that I know the availability of my team member and what they're capable of doing. Evaluate those two sentences. Now, you will agree with me that just by keeping it simple, it still carries a more powerful value compared to you using technical or big word, right? Now, let's look at another technical or big word that you can break it down into your own word. Let's say technical depth. A lot of people say, oh, I'll help my team, let's say, focus on building quality, and this help to reduce technical debt and blah, 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 right? Now, technical debt is a bit confusing word, but let's assume that you have mastered what technical debt is and you're looking for an alternative to mitigate or to kind of replace technical debt with. You are simply going to say, all right, the reason I focus on my team in such a way that they should spend enough time to build their work with quality so that we're not having work coming back to us. We're not having work deliver and then having our stakeholders send back work to us. That explains technical debt. All right, perfect. So the first word, try as much as possible to step away from technical word. When you step away from that and use your own word, you're the master, right? You're the master of Scrum. You're not a Scrum master. Scrum master try to mimic stuff and say the way they see in the Scrum guides and other stuff. Masters of Scrum, what they do, they try to understand what is going on and they create their own story out from that. Right. Number two, very, very powerful, very important. You need to understand that your brain is not a computer. Your brain cannot automatically get out everything at any time, right? So you need to leverage sticky note, leverage cardboard. One of the questions which always come up, which a lot of people kind of freak out, is, okay, tell me, what are some of the technology stack your team have used? And it's like, oh, technology stack. Now, how do you solve this scenario? It's easy. If you go on Google now and put technology stack for mobile team, technology stack for, let's say, web-based team, technology stack, it's going to give you a list of them. HTML, SQL, Java, Python, and GitHub, GitLab, and all you can name. Now you need to find about 3 of those. When you're having interviews, I'm sitting here, I'm doing a video, right? There's a wall in front of me, right? I'm doing video. If I'm doing this on my computer, I have stuff around me. I just need to stick that somewhere. I don't need to spend time trying to go into detail because that's not what I just need to know what that means. And because I don't want to pay so much attention on that, I stick them around. When I'm having my interviews, they right ahead of me. And I can basically just flow with it, right? So nobody's a genius. Look, I'm talking, I have a piece of paper with me that gives me a guideline of what I should say next. That is why I can go consistently for the next 30 minutes. Let's assume that I did not have this. This is my cheat sheet, right? Assume that I did not have this. What's going to happen? There is high level that I will not stay consistent, or I will forget what is coming up next, especially if I'm talking for long. So you always need to leverage that. You're not a machine. Just kind of pull ahead with that and see what is going on. Okay. Now, the next thing which we're going to focus on, technique number 3, is leverage story mapping. Now, I know you know about story mapping as in Scrum, but when I talk about leverage story mapping, I'm talking about you. Okay, just imagine if you come back from work, right? What are you going to do? You open your door. What are the first couple of stuff you do? Sometimes if you like food, you go to the kitchen to check if there's food. If you don't care so much about food, maybe you want to go have a rest, then come back. So there is a step-by-step approach which you take. So, for instance, if someone asks you the question, can you tell me what you were doing in a day-to-day in your last job? Before, it's not something that you try to figure out in an interview how to respond to that question. You must already have mapped that story on a piece of paper and kind of say, oh, on my first day when I got in, this is what was happening. You map that out as a story. Now, when you map that out as a story, it's able for you to flexibly talk about that because you now own the story, right? Now, when we talk about story mapping, which is a concept in Agile or in Scrum, we're trying to look at what is the chronology. So sometimes you might just like be saying something and you're mixing everything up. And you're talking to an expert like, okay, this person, he seems to know everything, but you're not understanding the chronology of what you're saying. So what happened? You're missing out on a lot. So leverage story mapping. Map out your story. Map it out. I also always say that for you to understand how to effectively deliver or talk about sprint planning, talk about daily stand-up, talk about is to master a step-by-step, right? Step-by-step is about story. The same thing for tell me about yourself. It's a story. What is that journey? What are the biggest wins in that journey and all of that? Map out the story, right? That was number 3. Number 4, highlight on achievement. Okay. If I ask the question, this is a very powerful tool and tell me about yourself, right? Which we're adding up. I know probably you might watch another video and tell me about yourself and say, oh, you did not say this, right? Every day we're building new content, which is why I might still come and tell me about yourself in the next 2 weeks, and I'm giving you new hacks. We try as much as possible to develop our content based on the feedback from the market and also based on the experiences we're having in the market. So every new content we're putting on bar is coming with new energy, it's coming with new material. You don't want to miss it. And that's why you want to make sure that you're hitting that notification button. That's why you also want to make sure you're liking and you're dropping a comment so that they can suggest or they can notify you when this is coming in. Now, highlight on achievement, very powerful. Go for any job that you say you work as a Scrum Master. One of the easiest way to win the developer, to kind of reduce the question. I've been in interviews, they say, oh, this interview is going to last for 1 hour. And after 20 minutes, the interviewer has run out of questions. Why? Because all the questions they were planning to ask, I've already answered them. How do you do that? You do that by building value in the way you speak. If, let's say, you said you work as with Signal Head as a Scrum Master, and I say, oh, tell me about your work as a Scrum Master with Signal Head. And you say, oh, with Signal Head, I was facilitating meeting, I helped my team to be cross-functional, I make sure I remove every impediment. It's like, okay, I'm missing a lot. I'm missing a lot in there. Now, what I want to say, what we want to hear when we interview you, tell me about, I want to hear about, oh, wow, it was an exciting environment. I had to work with a team of 5. When I got in, this is where the team was. And These are a couple of things that these are the future the team we're working on. But I'm really excited about this team is an achievement. When I came in, the team did not really understand how to estimate stories. And I remember within my first 1 month in the team, I actually really take them on some workshop. We spoke about the power of estimating story, how we can use poker planning to really estimate the story rightly. And I was glad that this actually changed the way they deliver their work. Wow. That is how you can use achievement. Now, let's talk about another scenario. Now, we talk about team performance, right? That, oh, wow, working in my last position in Signal Hair was been very fantastic. I got in, the team was really good. They could deliver their work, but I found out that one of the stuff that was missing in the team was that they lacked collaboration. They only show up in daily stand-up, and then after that, until next event, you're not seeing anybody. And because of that, I realized that some of our daily stand-up was a bit lengthy because they were trying to clarify each other. So I had to, in one of my retrospectives, bring up an initiative that helped them to understand the importance of collaborating. So we started creating hackathons, brainstorming sessions that go beyond the Scrum meeting. So we say, okay, this week we want to champion our brainstorming session. One person said, okay, I want to do that. What do you want us to talk about? And that really increased collaboration, and that made the team and reduce all our event time, because most of the team already understand what they need to do, before getting to any event. Right, perfect. So, achievements, very important. Number 5, Scrum, it's about business. Scrum is not about facilitating event and removing impediment. Now, if you get this right, you'll get your interview right. Sometimes we focus so much on learning about, oh, I was facilitating, oh, I was removing impediment, and we forget that for you to effectively facilitate and remove impediment is dependent on the business value and on the environment. The impediments or the approach you will use if you're in a Scale Agile environment is different from a Scrum environment. So when we talk about Scrum, don't focus on events, focus on first, for every position, there's a business value you're building. That is why when a recruiter calls you, or when you go into an interview, the hiring manager say, okay, this is what we're trying to build. They're giving you an idea so that you can reflect the same and tell them, this is what I was building, and this is how it's related to what you're building, and this is the value you can bring in. So don't focus only on event. If you can tell them what you were building, now it gives them more value that because you understand the need to deliver business, you're the right candidate for them. This is how you separate yourself from every other person that's going to say, I was facilitating event, I was removing impediment, without really going into detail to look at the business value that was bringing for them and the team. All right. And the last one, which is very important, we always keep the good thing for the last, right? People hire people, and not company hire people. I've heard people say, oh, I'm going for this interview with Bank of America. I had Bank of America interviews are very, sorry. That's funny, right? I have Bank of America interview, very tricky. I'm so afraid. I'm so frightened. No, it's the fact that maybe one person went for an interview with Bank of America and there was this hard dude there that gave them a very hard time doesn't mean that you're going to go the same way. It doesn't matter what company they might be, it's the same value they want to see. Now, if you know that your biggest value is just about having good conversation with people and making sure that you stay yourself. What's going to help you stay yourself? The fact that you know you, the fact that you know what you know. Your competitive advantage for in every interview is not about trying to understand what the company you're interviewing is all about. It's about understanding what you have done and how you can relate that. So most often I see a lot of people, when they're going for an interview, they go through the job description and they're trying to re-customize their resume to fit that job description. No. You've never worked there, so why do you want to pretend as if you worked there? That is what takes away your value. No, I've not worked in your environment, but this is what I'm capable of doing, and this is how it's going to help you be more in your environment. So, stay true to yourself. We spoke about 16 today. So, number one, find a common word to use for every technical word. Find a common word. Number two, use cardboard sticky note for terms that you cannot remember and they're very important for you. Number three, map out your story. Number four, highlight your achievement. Number five, Scrum is about business. Number six, people hire people and not company hire people. All right, if this was beneficial for you, make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. I want to see your comment so that I know that these videos are important for you, and that's going to motivate me to do 3 videos for next week. Okay, let me hear for those who share this content. I'm going to pick one winner to have a one-on-one with them next week. So if you share, put in the comment section that you did share. I actually have to say this at the last end so that not for someone that watch for 1 minute, right? If you're watching up to the end, it means you know what you're looking for. So if you share, just drop on the comment, I actually did share, and I'm going to pick a winner to have a one-on-one open conversation next week. I'll see you in the next video.